Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to a new episode of the Late Night Lake Show podcast. It is your host, Ricky, joining me today to preview the Lakers-Warriors series. I got my boy Tim, a.k.a. Cranjis McBasketball, founder of BBall-Index and host of the Basketball Exceptionalism podcast. Cranjis, Tim, my brother, how are you, my man?
Oh, what's up, Ricky? I'm doing well. This is one of the most anticipated series in a while, and I am amped for it, and I just can't wait to get these games started. Excited for Braun versus Steph. I'm excited for Lakers fans and Warriors fans to try to kill each other on Twitter. It's going to be – I don't know how many you interacted with, but I don't think I spoke to a single Memphis fan that entire last series that wasn't like a content creator. And that has changed very early already before the series has even started. These guys are ravenous, and it's either going to be a blast or it's going to be, stay off of Twitter days based on how these games go.
Yeah, earlier in the season, we knew all about those stay off of Twitter days. It was dark times to kick off the season for us, honestly, up until around the trade deadline where we flipped the roster over into something that we see today and can be proud of. It's funny, you asked if I've ran into any Grizzlies fans on the timeline. No, I haven't. I've seen some spaces that were kind of hilarious, but quick story before we get into it. I was visiting my buddies out in Des Moines, Iowa, for a baby shower for game 6 of Lakers and Grizzlies. And lucky for me, my boy Drew, he is a avid Lakers fan just like me. And of course, he had the game on and everything. And when we walked in, I had my one of my Golden Knight Lakers shirts on. And one of the people that were there visiting from out of town was from Memphis. And they were a big Grizzlies fan. And, so the hosts were kind of hyping it up like, oh, yeah, it's going to be, it's going to be a fun one tonight. I was like, I don't know too much about that. Great. I really didn't have much time between now and prepping for game 1 of the series to kind of just, press an exhale button and chop it up for at least a couple minutes about the thoughts on the series. So while I have you, and before we get to getting into the nitty gritty of Lakers Warriors, what were your thoughts just generally on how the Lakers got the Grizzlies up out of here in 6?
I was impressed. AD was missing a bunch of bunnies at the rim early in the series. LeBron has had his struggles, wasn't hitting well from 3. The team overall was not hitting their 3-pointers all that well, but they defended the hell out of the ball. They were able to get some things going offensively. I ended up being really impressed with Darvin and his staff from a tactics chess match standpoint. I agree that, I would have liked to see some of the rotation tweaks a little bit earlier in the series, but in terms of the they're playing this defense, so we're going to, poke at the holes in it, or they're trying to attack our defense this way, so we'll change it up. That part of the game was really good, and it makes me feel better moving forward. And it was something that going into that series for a first-time head coach, you just don't know. So that makes me feel better. And it was what a way to end that series at home, up 1,000,000 points. It was just a blast, that game. So we definitely got some really good moments, some tough ones, but want to win, but also have some, fight through the adversity. That's what sports are about. So we got to see that. We got to see the team step up, and they look like the better team.
I don't think there's a better example of the quote unquote basketball gods are always watching than Dylan Brooks post-game comments talking about, LeBron's old, he pokes bears, and he doesn't respect somebody until they drop 40 on him. And then in the elimination game, the Lakers literally win by 40. So I think that's a nice little poetry and a bow on a series that, I think a lot of Lakers fans and honestly the public kind of felt like this was a Lakers leaning series. And I'm glad that they did not push it to that 7th game and going back to Memphis. To be honest, if they didn't jag around game 2 with Ja out, this could have been a gentleman's sweep, but we won't cry over dropped basketball games. But here we are now. This is a matchup that I specifically asked for. I went to the restaurant. I placed my order. I asked for the Golden State Warriors to defeat the Sacramento Kings game 7. And I'm blessed enough as a basketball fan, and the rest of us should feel the same, that we get this epic matchup of Steph LeBron. I think this is part 5, but with a new twist. LeBron is in a Laker uniform, and I couldn't be more excited that the Lakers are now part of this nice little rivalry that have kind of like spanned almost a whole decade now. This Warriors, Steph Curry, first championship, I believe, was in 2015, 2014. And here we are today. Steph, for everybody knows, is still a bad man. If you had any doubts that Game 7 50 ball is obvious and evident, that he is still him and live and well in his era of being at the top of his game. Draymond Green obviously is going to be an agitator, a deterrent, but he seems locked and loaded to do what needs to be done so that his Golden State Warriors can advance. Klay is still a very, potent / dangerous offensive player. And then, of course, they have a litany of rotational guys that seem to buy into the team's identity under Steve Kerr. Tim, we are here on the eve of Game 1. And for all the people who have been aware of how the Warriors get down and how they've kind of branded this new era of basketball, threes and unselfish ball movement, right? Getting out in transition. They're not as dangerous on the defensive end as they were in past championship teams, but they still will make you pay out in transition. For the folks who are now locking back in to these Warriors, what would you say their offensive and defensive profiles are today?
Yeah, good question. I would say that offensively, what we will see should look familiar. And I mean, if it doesn't look familiar, that's because the Lakers are doing a really good job against it. But it is a lot of the off-ball screen stuff, not necessarily pick and rolls, though they'll still run a good number of pick and rolls. But Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole running off of pin down screens, flare screens, just constantly running around. If you try to deny Steph on the first shot, he'll just sprint around some more until he gets another one. And Draymond Green facilitating, Kevon Looney facilitating and crashing the glass. They've added Andrew Wiggins, who's a nice piece for them. He's kind of like their version of Rui, where it's like, yeah, within this offense, you can be a three-point shooter, but then also late clock, if we need someone to just, make something happen, it's good to have you out there as well. He can punish a mismatch. So they've got some dudes, they've got some defensive specialists, but it is still very much the Steph, Klay, Draymond, like run off around screens. If you try to send two guys at the ball to take away the immediate shot, Draymond Green's going to get a short roll and he's going to go dice you up in a 4v3 or a 3v2. It's going to look like a practice drill where you're playing 3v2. The offense is going to score. And if you don't put two on the ball, you got to worry about Steph Curry jacking threes. So they're going to get a ton of threes up. They are going to get a bunch of cuts at the rim based on their screeners being open when the screeners defender tries to help on Steph or Klay or Poole. And then, like you said, they'll run a transition. They actually haven't been as high a transition frequency team as they usually are, but they're still absolutely deadly there. We saw that in the first round. They got out a bunch. And then defensively, they're going to switch a lot. They'll run some drop coverage. They'll hedge a little bit. They do their best to hide Steph. They do their best to hide Jordan Poole. And they've got, some decent point of attack guys. They've got some decent wing stoppers. And then Looney and Draymond rotating, defending the rim, getting on the defensive boards, and then playing good post defense is kind of how they align. They'll, depending on who you are, they might send help. They might send double teams, or they might just let you play 1v1 if they don't think you can beat them. So I have a better sense for what the offense from them will look like in Game 1. Defensively, they can go a lot of different ways. And in that way, we kind of have to wait and see a little bit. As the Lakers, you have to go into Game 1 ready to run your drop beating plays, ready to run your switch beating plays, ready to run your hedge beating plays. And you can't go in knowing, oh, for sure these guys are going to be switching everything, because we just don't know that. So the Lakers need to be prepared, because this is a team that if you make mistakes, they can absolutely crush you for it. And when they get on a roll, man, and those threes start falling and Steph is playing to the crowd and Poole's playing to the baddies, like it can things can turn quickly if you let them get on a little bit of a run.
That's fair. I mean, the first two games will be in San Francisco, so obviously that place is going to be absolutely crazy. The first time the Lakers will step into that building in a playoff matchup series. You spoke about it a little bit, Tim, and we're going to now peel one layer back on the onion. One thing that I love about having Cranjis on is I refer to him as like basketball's Neil deGrasse Tyson, just the way that he can like totally nerd out on schemes and formations and formats, and you're just listening and you're just like, I just want him to keep going. Not everything. I know what the hell he said, but damn it, I need to now go and research. Like when you walk into a lecture hall and somebody's just talking about black holes and you have no idea what they're saying, but you're like, you know what? I'm gonna sit my ass down and listen because I'm gonna learn something today. So, keep doing your thing, and obviously, keep everybody make sure you are subscribed to all of Cranjis's great content over at the BBall-Index and the Basketball Exceptionalism podcast. But without that break aside, right? Obviously, the $1 million question is how the hell do you slow down Steph Curry? Game 7 close out 50 piece. That's what legends are made out of. You got folks talking about all-time point guard rankings again. And, that's just, however you feel about it, that's a testament to what Steph is doing at this point in his career. So, no shade against him. And the Lakers are going to have a lot of work cut out for him. I mean, Steph is not only one of the best at getting his own shot, but also creating for others. And I just kind of want to get your perspective on Cranjis, what the Lakers coaching staff, the much talked about Darvin Ham coaching staff, what they have done in these matchups against the Warriors in the past this season to try to limit Steph's impact, and what you see or what the data is telling you about some schemes or defensive strategies that could try to limit his overall dominance, because you can't stop him, folks. You won't stop him, but what is the data telling you on how you could potentially limit Steph?
Yeah, great question. And he is their like offensive engine. He makes everything run. He gets his own points, and then he's going to get a bunch of points for everybody else. He's not necessarily going to get the assists all the time, but if you commit 2 players on him to try to take away his threes, and I'm not just talking like he's dribbling and you send a double team. I mean, he comes off a ball screen and you try to trap it, or you have a big man there just at the level of the screen looking to contain him. Or if he runs off of an off-ball screen, maybe he starts in the corner, he runs up towards the wing, catches off of he's getting a screen from Draymond, and then Draymond's guy is there to take away the immediate three. And then in any of those situations, Draymond as the screener or Looney as the screener, they're now open. And then once he gets the ball to them, now Golden State has a numbers advantage. And this is what they are best at as a team. And among all the teams in the league, I think Golden State is the best at this. I think Dallas is really good. I think Boston does a decent job. But if you give Golden State a 2v1 or a 3v2 or a 4v3, and Draymond or Kevon Looney are able to have the ball in their hands, and they've got, Andrew Wiggins in one corner, Klay Thompson in the other corner, and there's 2 defenders to guard those 2 shooters and Draymond attacking the rim, there's no good answer. There's no right answer. And that's how, when we talk about sharing the ball and ball movement, it's in those numbers advantage situations that Golden State's at their best. They're what is their slogan? It's strength in numbers, right? This is how they get to that. Is Steph's job is draw help and then get it to Draymond and let Draymond go run the show, because it's practice for them. Like, they're going to get dunks, they're going to get layups, and they're going to get open corner catch and shoot threes. And there's no winning that scenario. You need them to just miss good shots, basically. And that's problematic. So I don't think you can trap. I don't think you can hard hedge, show and recover. I don't think you can soft hedge or catch hedge. Any of those routes where you have 2 guys on the ball, they beat in that way. And we see this in the data when you look at Steph Curry's pick and roll data this season. If he's able to draw 2 and then get the ball out, they're scoring about 1.25 points per possession, like a 125 offensive rating. Very, very good.
Yeah.
So ideally, what you want to avoid doing is putting 2 on the ball. You need to defend the ball screen 2v2. I don't want to have to send help. I want, let's say, I don't know, Austin Reeves or Dennis Schroeder guarding Steph, whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Between them and we'll say AD, those 2 defenders need to defend both Steph and the screener. And if you have to involve a third defender, that's when things get problematic. So the 2 ways that you can defend a ball screen 2v2 are either switching or dropping. And actually, both of these have had some success. They both have had about the same, around the same efficiency defensively against the Warriors. Let me see here. Against switching, 0.99 points per possession against drop 1.05. So very, very minimal difference. In either situation, you're not letting them get into that 2v1 or 3v2 game. The problem with switching is the way that the Warriors like to attack switching. They're not like the Lakers. They're not like the Lakers where they get a switch and they try to, hit a lob or a seal with their big man with a guard on them. When the Warriors get a switch, they just keep running their offense. And then you have, Wendy Gabriel or Mo Bamba or Anthony Davis trying to chase Steph Curry around off-ball screens. And that's a problem. That's not going to work. So switching, so switching may stop the ball screen, but if there's any time left on the clock, they're going to be able to run their offense, and that's problematic. So that's where the one remaining option, and buckle in because this is going to sound dumb, is against the best three-point shooter ever. Drop coverage has been the best route, but a specific kind of drop coverage. I'm not talking about AD just hang out under the rim and let Steph get a ball screen and then just take a wide open pull-up three. That's going to kill you. He shoots like 45% on his pull-up threes. We need AD around the screen so he's able to contest that shot. But then as soon as as soon as Steph comes off the screen, AD's in what I'd call a high drop. He's not deep in the paint. He's more right around the level of the screen. He's big enough. He's long enough. He can contest the immediate three. And then his job from that point moving forward is don't let the roller get loose on you. And because Golden State doesn't have a lob threat with Looney or Draymond, it's actually kind of easier to do this. If it were a Steph AD ball screen, you're screwed because AD, we saw this with Memphis. If they tried to defend a D'Lo AD ball screen and tried to contain D'Lo at all, AD's able to just jump and beat them on a lob. And so that's why we saw them have to hang back with him. And that's why we saw D'Lo get so many shots deep in the paint later in that series because they took AD away and that conceded that drive. So for the Lakers, AD is a unique talent that's able to, he has the mobility, the length, and the athleticism to be high enough, maybe a step behind the screen. So when Steph comes off of it, contest the shot, let Dennis or Austin or whoever recover, and then he's still able to recover back to the roll man. He can play the shot and the lob, and there are only a handful of players in the entire league that can do that. So high drop has been the most successful. If you do this, Draymond Green's short roll passing doesn't matter. Klay Thompson's not getting open catch and shoot threes. Jordan Poole's not getting catch and shoot threes. You're not seeing dunks or layups. If they're getting a shot off against that defense, it's Steph Curry taking a pull-up contested three. And if they try to set ball screens deeper and deeper, I'm not really chasing them out to half court with AD. He needs to defend around the three-point line. If Steph's going to hit logo threes enough to beat the Lakers in a 7-game series, I mean, that's if you're going to pick your poison, that's the way you got to pick. That's the one you got to pick. I'd so much rather have Steph Curry hit logo threes and just be hot for a couple games instead of losing by giving up dunks and like open Klay Thompson corner threes. Like it's not going to be comfortable. There's no good option here, but it is by far the best of the bad options because this also allows AD to be defending the rim. When he's in this drop, the high drop, his job is still defend the rim. And that works well if the Golden State Warriors try to get into their off-screen stuff. Let's say they run a ball screen, the shot's not there, they swing the ball back to Draymond or Looney, and then we've got shooters running around. The other part of this defense is, and we've seen the Lakers do this actually. The Lakers have done both parts of this, which is if you're saying, Tim, would they actually do this? That's crazy. Why would they ever do that? Right. This has been the primary defense the Lakers have used on Steph Curry. Among the defenses they've used on him, I looked at the data. This has been the most successful for the Lakers. And then at a league-wide level, this has been most successful. But it should give you confidence as a fan hearing that this is what the Lakers are already doing. We don't need to convince them. We don't need to hope they find a tweet or something. They know because they've done it and it's worked. And with the off-screen game, what we've seen them do is sag off of the non-shooters. So sag off of Draymond, sag off Looney, sag off of Gary Payton II. Leave those guys alone. If they're going to shoot threes, fine. And top lock the off-screen shooters. So Steph, Klay, and Poole are the primary guys. Maybe some DiVincenzo, not really Wiggins. When I say top lock, usually with defense, you're between your man and the basket.
Right.
With top locking, you want to be between your man and the screen he's trying to run off of. So he can't run off of that screen in a normal way and catch and have a chance to shoot. The Lakers combined that with the sagging off of non-shooters. And that's such an effective combo because when you're no longer between your man and the basket, he can cut to the basket. And if you don't have that guy defending the paint like an Anthony Davis, you're going to see them get those back cuts, catch, and be able to shoot at the rim. Against the Lakers, that did not work because AD was there. Against Sacramento, that did work because Sabonis is not Anthony Davis.
Right.
And against other teams that have tried this here and there, it doesn't work as well. So the combination of the ball screen defense on Steph with the high drop and the sag off, top block, off screen defense, they have good synergy because they kind of play into each other. If you're already in drop, you're already sagging off in a position to defend the off screen stuff. Or like if you wanted to be blitzing ball screens, if you're going to be sagging off of the off ball screens, you're now way out of position to try to blitz a ball screen if they try to go to that. So switching or blitzing, none of that, like the two strategies don't work together. And that's such a key thing with the defenses. These are the two things they do. We need to be able to like cohesively defend both of them because it's not like it's not football. It's not, they try one play at a time. They're going to just flow into more and more and more. So you have to be able to lock in, be in position regardless of which of the two you're defending. And thus far in the season, through the 3 most recent regular season games, post trades, post All-Star break, we've seen the Lakers do this, and they did it really well. And Golden State didn't have answers, and that gives me confidence heading into the series.
I love it. I think it's also to everything that you just said. It's going to be very important that the Lakers guards do not die on these screens, right? Because in this scheme that you were talking about, Anthony Davis is only there to make sure that Steph isn't just going to fire off in any second. But as soon as he feels like he needs to recover to the big from rolling to the basket, he's gone. So D'Angelo, Austin, I don't know where they Dennis, Austin. I don't know where they plan on sticking D'Angelo in the rotation. Where do you think who is D'Angelo guarding game 1?
If I had to guess, I would say that we're going to see D'Lo guard Klay Thompson. That's who they put him on during the regular season. And D'Lo's not all that bad of a kind of like a chaser around those off-ball screens. Klay will have size on him, but I would rather Klay have a little bit of a size on a guy who's going to be in position contesting a shot rather than throw a bigger body on him, that dude die on a screen, and Klay Thompson get like open catch and shoot threes. So you don't feel the best about that matchup, but looking at the film, D'Lo did a damn good job in the regular season in that situation. And I don't know that there's a better, if you're going to start him, I think you have to play him on Klay. I don't think playing like, you can put Vando on Klay, but Vando's not that great of an off-ball screen navigator. That's his weakness. He's really good as an ISO defender. He's not the best at getting around screens on or off ball. So I like him as more of a helper guy, maybe on one of the non-shooters, sagging off and disrupting cuts, disrupting drives, where D'Lo, I think, makes more sense as one of those chaser defenders.
Mm-hmm. Tim, the Warriors, I guess if you throw out Moses Moody, the 2 made threes, the Warriors really only have 3 players right now that are shooting above 30% from the 3-point arc. That's Steph Curry at 37.8, Klay Thompson at 35.6, and Dante DiVincenzo at 33 and a third. Dante's getting up about 2.5 threes. Clay's never been shy, man. He's getting up about 10.5 a game. And then obviously Steph, all the reasons in the world to get up 13 3-pointers a game. I wanted to quickly just get your thoughts on, the Warriors thing is kind of like the waves of 3-point shooting. I mean, hell, I didn't even mention Jordan Poole that's shooting an abysmal 25% from 3 right now. Hopefully that continues. But from a Lakers perspective, they still have to be very aware of where the Warriors marksmen are. Tim, how do the Warriors use players like DiVincenzo and Klay differently from how they would use Steph in getting him free for open looks?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a little shortcut I have to answering this is looking at the offensive roles that we have at BBall-Index. We look at what play types does a player use to get their shots? Is it ISO? Is it pick and roll? Is it spotting up? Is it running off of off-ball screens? Post ups, putbacks, whatever. Based on the diet of how they get to their shots, we can put them into different groups. So, for example, Klay Thompson is an off-screen shooter. He's running off of these screens all day long. Super obvious, we see that. Dante DiVincenzo, he's not quite an off-screen shooter, but he's a movement shooter. And Moses Moody is a stationary shooter. So from a usage standpoint, and because they're in this role doesn't necessarily mean they're a great shooter. It's just this is how they're used. the difference between those two is if Moody's going to get threes up, he's standing still and putting threes up. If he has to run left or right or relocate to get into a shot, he doesn't have the balance and confidence to get the shot up. Whereas DiVincenzo, we might see him start at the wing, fade down to the corner, catch and shoot, and him be a little off balance. But he's got the footwork, he's got the balance to be able to get the shots off. He's not the same off-screen threat that Poole, Curry, and Clay are. Poole's an interesting case because he's like insanely underperformed this year compared to what he did last year, which was much, much better than the prior year. So he's got like two not all that impressive offensive seasons with one insane offensive season sandwiched in between. And so, he might still have the gravity as if he were what he was doing last year, but we saw the Lakers just play like deep drop coverage against him, like not worry about him as much. But Steph and Clay are the two that you need to top lock, take away the off-screen looks. DiVincenzo is more of just like a spot up guy. Wiggins is more of a spot up guy. Like they get their good shots based on how you defend the other players. If you are sending two on the ball, you give them the 4v3 or the 3v2. That's where Wiggins eats. That's where DiVincenzo eats. They're not necessarily the guys you're drawing up plays for, where they're the ones creating the advantage and then getting a shot off. So I think that's one key difference. Same thing with Peyton. Like Gary Payton just stands in the corner, and if you give them a numbers advantage and you help off of him, he'll just cut to the rim. That's all he does. Right. Like Looney and Green, they'll be passers. Their passing is like pretty basic stuff if you don't give them the 4v3, 3v2, 2v1 to attack. So I'm not scared about their passing. I'm not scared about the shooting for a lot of these guys in the half court. In transition, things can happen. But in the half court, if you defend ball screens well, 2v2, and you defend the off-ball screen stuff as I described, the role players for Golden State will not get going because they have a very clear, pipeline of shots that are given to them that do not exist if you are able to play these actions 2v2. And this is something we see when we look game by game. The games in which teams played these actions 2v2, we suddenly see, DiVincenzo have 3 points or Wiggins have 4 points instead of 12 points or 15 points because they're just not being fed those open looks. So that's why being able to defend these actions the way I'd like to is absolutely critical, because if they break that approach and the Lakers need to be trapping or switching, all of a sudden these other guys can start getting involved, and that's where Golden State really becomes dangerous.
Facts. I mean, I guess I mentioned his name earlier, but I'm a little surprised in you getting eyes on the opponent. Now, how much of a darling he was last season and getting paid, and unfortunately there was a little tussle in some preseason action with Draymond Green. But Jordan Poole seems to be a little bit in the doghouse with Warriors fans. I even saw one guy say I would limit him for Steph rest minutes and they wouldn't play him outside of that. And I'm like, great googly moogly, how much y'all paying this boy to do that? But I guess what are the B-ball numbers, the BBall-Index numbers telling us about Jordan Poole? Are they as down in the playoffs on him as Warriors fans are?
So I would look, I guess, at the regular season because that's the bigger sample. He hasn't shot well in the playoffs, and we've seen that in a couple games. But over the course of the entire year, like defensively, he was in a role that we call the low activity role, which is where you hide players when you don't want them to guard anybody, and they also don't help. He and Steph were there, so they're actively negative defenders. At least they were in the regular season in those roles. Offensively, he and Steph were also in the same role, primary ball handler. But from an impact standpoint, we have these LeBron metrics, luck adjusted player estimate of the box prior regularized on off. It's a fancy number that tells you it's a fancy number that tells you when they're on the court, does the team play better or worse? And we adjust for small samples. We adjust for like luck driven outcomes. Like if, maybe the other team shoots really well on free throws when you're in the game, like you have no control over that. We adjust for the roles that you're in. We adjust for the caliber of your teammates in the opposing lineups that are on the court. So there's a lot of checks and balances built into place to avoid some of the normal pitfalls you see with other advanced metrics. From that data, we can look at just the offense and just the defense. On the offensive side of the court, compared to other rotation primary ball handlers, Steph Curry, an A+ offensive impact, of course. Jordan Poole, a D grade. So below average, not very good. Not even like slightly below average, like pretty comfortably not positive this season offensively. And he still plays as if he is. He still takes really hard shots, but he's just not making them. And he's going to have stretches where he does knock his shots down. He might get hot for a game or two, but big picture over a big sample size, it has not happened for him this year. And I guess the scary thing is, like, in a 7-game series, the sample size isn't all that big. So you might see random guys go off or be super cold. So you never really know. But I would not be surprised to see the Lakers, from a game plan standpoint, actively disrespect Jordan Poole and what he brings to the table. And they kind of give him the Dillon Brooks treatment. We'll let you take some shots. We're not going to give him up quite as wide open, but if you're taking a shot and that means Clay and Steph aren't taking shots, that's probably a good thing for our defense.
Well, at least he got the money. I'm sure if this don't work out this series and the Warriors front office says changes need to be made, we got to preserve Steph's championship window. I'm sure they'll make some decisions on that. But yeah, I mean, Mr. Poole's gonna have to step up, or like you said, he might be getting the good old Dillon Brooks treatment. And if that ain't the most disrespectful thing somebody could call you as a basketball player, I don't know what is right now. That man was scared. Real quick, Cranjis, I'm curious to know how the legend that is Draymond Green just continues to thrive and be an impactful basketball player for this team. I am well aware that he is, as much as Steph is the engine, Draymond is the heart and soul, right? Like, he does everything but burn down a building, and they will gather, rally around him and say, you know what? We didn't need that building anyway. What does Draymond Green's year look like? Since you referenced Poole, let's talk about the regular season. And I guess talk to me a little bit about what the Lakers are game planning for with him in this series.
Yeah, good question. He's been very positive on defense. He's been used in a mobile big role. So kind of the center in lineups, but instead of being like a drop coverage guy, he's hedging, he's switching, he's doing more of the mobile coverages. A+ defensive impact compared to his rotation peers. Not a surprise there. He's good at that stuff. He rotates like hell. He communicates really well. He'll box out. He's not the best individually on the boards, but he's a pretty solid rim protector, just a sturdy body, decent post defender, and an elite defensive playmaker when it comes to picking pockets, jumping passing lanes. So super versatile, takes on tough matchups. That's what he gives you on that end of the court. Offensively, though, he's used in a roll and cut big role, which is like the garbage man, big man kind of role, putbacks, cuts, dump offs. He's not posting up. He's not really stretching the floor all that much. He's not self-creating anything. He is a really good passer, though. And we see this in our data, really strong passing data pretty much across the board, except for one key area. So we have these advanced, like, peripheral metrics, I like to call them. We have an overall playmaking talent grade. He has an A. But then in the peripherals, he has an A+ in passing creation volume. This is the rate at which he's generating shots for teammates. Very good. He has a B passing creation quality grade, which is, how high caliber are the shots you're generating for teammates. He has an A- in our passing versatility metric, meaning he's seeing the floor. He's able to make all the passes. He'll make the skip passes, the post feeds, the outlet passes. He'll hit the cutters. He'll hit the, dribble handoffs, just perimeter passes. He's got all that working. But then he has an F in our passing efficiency metric, which tells us that even considering all the other things, even taking into account the versatility, the quality, the volume, he's throwing the ball away way more than we would expect to see. He tries to thread needles that they're not the right decision. And he has an F there. Steph has an F there. And Poole has an F there. This is wild. There aren't too many teams where they're like top 3 guys, and from a playmaking standpoint, all have F grades there. This is abnormal. This is not what we usually see. It does lean into the fact that Golden State turns the ball over. LA's going to be able to get going in transition in this series. And so very good passer nonetheless.
If you take real quick, on that point, brother, what do you just have offhand by the same metrics that you just talked about, Draymond Green and Steph, and it sounds like half the damn roster is awful. Do you have D'Angelo Russell's passing efficiency? Because I mean, there's a little bit of what my eyes tell me and then what the data says, but I feel like as beautiful of passes he makes in the threading of the needle, there's a lot of ones that he tries that I don't think he should. Just so I can have some kind of comparison, do you know off the top of your head what D'Angelo's passing efficiency is?
Yeah, he's an F as well.
God,
and so was Russell
right.
Westbrook.
Gotcha. Okay. Now that I know that all aligns with how things are looking in my head, got you. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, they'll throw the ball away. Need to make some smarter decisions. So Draymond, from a game planning standpoint, with his offense, again, if you take away those short rolls, if you take away him, playing quarterback with a numbers advantage where there's one more wide receiver than there is a cornerback, he's going to not do a whole lot offensively. And you can sag off of him. You can leave him alone. If he's taking shots from the perimeter or from mid-range, that is fantastic for your offense, or your defense, I should say. He has not been that great as a finisher at the rim this season. Let me double check that number. That's off the top of my head. D grade in our rim shot making metric, which looks at difficulty adjusted shooting at the rim. So if you just don't put two guys on the ball against Steph, Draymond Green's impact goes away. If you stick Draymond Green with Russell Westbrook, he's not a useful player. He's a useless offensive player. If you stick him with a Dame, a Steph, a Jamal Murray, a Trae Young, a Luka Doncic, he becomes incredibly impactful because he has that playmaking element. And those are guys that defenses they need to put two guys on the ball against. So how the Lakers game plan will directly impact how useful he looks. Just like Xavier Tillman in that last series, what was it, game 2, game 3, he had a bunch of points. He was super efficient, and he had a bunch of assists too, because the Lakers put two on the ball for Desmond Bane ball screens, and Tillman's a great short roll playmaker. So it's the same sort of deal. He might go from 15 points to 2 points game to game based on how well you game plan against him. So that's what he does. He overall offensively had a C- offensive impact compared to his rotation peers in the roll and cut big roll, but it's 100% as a passer and not at all as a scorer, because he is not a very good scorer and isn't really crashing the offensive boards either.
It said, I think Draymond even said it on his own podcast. I guess listen to the Draymond Green show to get your insights on all things Warriors basketball. But he came out and said that he actually asked to travel away from the team and attend the Lakers home game during LeBron's all-time scoring record-breaking game. It sounded like Steve Kerr told him, we'd prefer you would be with the team. So, I mean, Tim, this is going to be interesting to see, the fan facing his idol, right? This is a little, I wouldn't say LeBron is his mentor on the court, but I'm sure this is a big bro, little bro situation off the court now that they've settled their little feuds from their Cleveland days. I'm interested to see what kind of Draymond Green we're going to get in totality, because if you ask Warriors fans, he spent the better half of a year and a half trying to prove to Warriors fans how much he loves LeBron James. So I hope that he gets a little Ant Edwards syndrome, and once he meets his idol, starts to get a little nervous on the main stage. But we'll see. Draymond's a veteran, obviously a multi-time champion. It should be a good time. But
one part though that might matter, maybe not, but maybe is maybe with the the LeBron fandom, the clutch connection. Maybe we don't see any dirty plays from Draymond against AD or LeBron, or maybe Austin Reeves needs to watch out until he gets a new agent or something, or whoever else is it with clutch. But maybe that'll come into our favor, and we won't see LeBron taking any nut shots in this series.
You never know, though, man. Draymond looks like a guy that's a real good compartmentalizer. Like, he would just be like, I love you, Mom, but you might catch this elbow down in the block. I think Charles Barkley said that he would score on his mama if she was on the court or something like that. But, he's a competitor. I do just find it hilarious how much he just openly loves LeBron while being a active professional athlete. So, a couple of Lakers related questions before we get you out of here, brother. Obviously, the talks about Darvin Ham, rookie head coach, the ebb and flows of his coaching performances, rotations, whatever there was grief about throughout the year. And I will be the first to say I've had plenty along this journey myself. But once we got to the playoffs, I said in a tweet, I said, you know what? Shaky semester, right? But it's finals week. It is now time for you to be graded on a 40% scale of your grade. And obviously in the NBA, it's much higher. But being a rookie head coach now with a series win under your belt, I think you have to at least look at Ham's first round as a positive for the adjustments he made. And no one was more aware of that than you. Do you think, Tim, as we look into this series, Steve Kerr is a 4-time championship winning head coach, right? We don't need to talk about all of his accolades. He's been there, he's done that, seen the mountaintop as a player and coach. Do you see this being a really uneven coaching matchup, or has Coach Ham and the rest of the Lakers coaching staff shown you enough throughout the season in the first round of the playoffs to say, hey, we might have a nice little chess match here coming up?
I've seen enough. I feel confident. Last series, it was uneven. The Lakers outcoached Memphis, and it was, I mean, digging into exactly what happened and when and why, they were very slow to make adjustments, and they made some missteps. Ham wasn't perfect, but he did a heck of a job, and they traded blows quite a bit, and we saw quick adjustments on offense, on defense. The rotations were that one part that was a little bit slower, but I think he's learned his lesson there. And I mean, I'll admit, like, I was not the biggest Darvin Ham guy during the regular season. There were plenty of things I gave him crap about with the offensive scheme, with the defensive scheme being too basic, with the rotations, with the in-game, timeout management and managing end of game situations. But just about everywhere, he kind of things clicked into place and he improved. And we saw the offensive scheme. I've tracked every offensive play this team has run all season long. Wasted countless hours of my life putting this together, but I know, during this play, these guys were on the court. They ran a set play out of horns, and it was this play, and it got this guy a shot, and he made it, or whatever. And I've got all of that mapped out, and I was able to see for most of the year, they were kind of, the percentage of the time they ran organized offense was kind of flat and stagnant. And then a couple weeks before the Rui trade, so this is before the other trades, before the trade deadline, we saw this just beginning to jump up, and it just grew and grew and grew. And this line just goes up and up and up to the point where by the end of the year, the Lakers were one of the most organized offenses in the NBA, and they're better when they do that. I don't care if you want to run an ISO, a ball screen, a post up. When you're able to dictate where the defense will be and what looks you're generating, you'll be more effective. And we saw the offensive scheme peak to the end of the season, and it's carried over to the playoffs. We saw the defensive scheme be super basic for most of the year. And then the last 2.5 weeks of the season, they actually started diversifying their ball screen coverages, their game plans. And it was, oh, shoot, they're gearing up for the playoffs. And we've seen that carry over. So he's checked both of those boxes from an adjustment standpoint. We didn't know going into last series. He's checked that box. And so I think going into this round, we're going to have a heck of a chess match. It's not going to be chess versus checkers. He's not going to win every battle, every game. There will be games that the Lakers win that they lost tactically. There will be games they lose that they won tactically, potentially. But if you're interested in that sort of coverage, keep an eye out on my feed or the podcast or the live playback streams where I'm breaking that stuff down, because it is so much fun to dig into that for me and see, who has the tactical high ground. Oh man, they countered, and then we countered, they countered. But I guess to answer your question, I see this as being two teams with somewhat equal footing from a coaching standpoint tactically. And I think the Lakers just rotation and roster lines up really well against Golden State in the regular season matchups. The wins and losses, it doesn't necessarily carry over, but we saw the Lakers offense be able to run their stuff with a lot of success, and Golden State did not show that they had any idea how to stop it. And then on the other end of the court, we saw the Warriors ball screen game slow down. We saw the top blocking and the sagging off of non-shooters result in bad three-point shooters taking shots. It's resulted in lowered efficiency and frequency of the off-screen stuff, handoffs, and cuts. And we saw, if you compare how the Warriors played in the 3 games against the Lakers with how they played against every other team in every other game all season long, there was like a third of a point per play difference between their efficiency attacking the Lakers with their handoffs, their off-screen stuff, and their cuts compared to attacking everybody else. So like the Lakers saved themselves like 10 points per game in those games, were funneling shots to worse shooters, taking away those numbers advantages. And the Golden State, if you remove the strength in numbers, they're not a scary team. So if that carries over, LA's in really good shape in the series. And I think that's really going to be the battle. How can Steve Kerr regain the offensive footing for his team? If he can't, they're in trouble.
See, this is the times I wish I had the camera on, because I did one of those, lookaways to the cameras with the smirk when you said that when you take away the strength in numbers, they're in trouble. That's what I've been saying, man. And with all due respect, in my, I know that the Lakers and the Warriors are going to be a battle of the Titans series. I know it's going to be one for the record books, right? But I've also seen the Lakers win the previous 3 matchups. I've seen the Lakers with their updated roster take care of the Warriors. Now, we can talk about complete teams, who was out, who was in. All I know is it's been close to 3 years, Tim, since I've seen the Lakers beat the Clippers, right? Like, so them, in all due respect to the defending champs, if I haven't seen it since my first child's been born, a Lakers win, of course I'm going to be a little bit more humble. But damn it, the Lakers are in a position right now that they can go in to San Francisco today, by the time you guys are listening to this podcast, steal game 1, and then all the talking heads start to change their tune about what's really going on. I saw a couple of folks talk about how the Lakers are played a inexperienced Grizzlies team. No experience across the board. But the Warriors, in their championship pedigree, they bounced a very feisty Sacramento Kings team, which I don't know when's the last time they were in the playoffs before this year. I think it was like the longest running in any sport in professional sports, but that's neither here nor there. I think from a just watching the game perspective and being a Lakers fan and seeing how this season has played out and watching the team's trajectory, I don't know how you're not at least really, really excited to watch some fun basketball being played, right? Like, Tim, from just a basketball fan perspective, this is what the playoffs should be all about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is going to be a blast. You've got superstars going up against each other. You've got, 2 in-state rivals going up against each other, 2 ravenous fan bases. It is going to be, marquee matchup stuff. Absolutely a blast. I think from an X's and O standpoint that, maybe not everybody cares about that, but I think it's going to be a battle there. And I'm pumped, man. It's going to be a blast. I remember watching the Warriors play. I don't know who they played early in the season, right after a Lakers game, and being like, they're playing a different sport than we are. Like these pre-trade Lakers teams, like, what the hell are we doing? And now looking at the Lakers team, they're so different. They've grown so much since then. The rookie head coach has grown so much since then. And we're ready to battle. We're ready to fight. It's not going to be easy, but I think this team's going to pull it out.
Take out LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Who is the most important Laker in this series?
Oh, man. So I'm torn between 2 guys. I think you can make an argument for Austin Reeves. I think you can make an argument for D'Angelo Russell. With Reeves, defensively, he's going to need to step up. In the last series, he was not frequently used on Ja, but he was frequently used on Desmond Bane and shut him down for a real good portion of that series. There were a couple games he got loose, but when Reeves was on him, he did a dang good job. And looking at the film of how he played this Warriors team this season, he did a really good job then too. So I think he's going to draw Steph as a matchup. There are going to be times where he might be on Clay or Poole, and I trust him. I trust him to navigate screens, to stay in front, to contest, to draw offensive fouls. If for this Warriors team and as many illegal screens as they set, Austin Reeves is going to be flying left and right and drawing fouls on these guys, and it's going to matter. So his hustle on that end, and then offensively being able to be on ball, off ball. He's been one of the more reliable 3-point shooters. And in ball screens, when you play drop coverage and go over a screen against Austin Reeves, This was shocking to me when I found this. He's been the second most effective pick and roll operator against drop coverage with an over, a guy trailing over, only behind Luka Doncic this year among on-ball guards. Insane. And he does it with the pull-up threes. He does it for the pull-up mid-rangers. And he plays what I like to call ethical basketball, man. Ricky, you'll see, SGA, James Harden, Trae Young, they draw these fouls and they throw up junk at the rim. It's not a real shot. It's not going in. Austin Reeves seeks contact, yet still consistently is getting real legitimate shots up at the rim and converts on them at such a high rate that is not normal to see for guys drawing fouls the way he does. And it's ethical versus unethical basketball. He's shooting to shoot. He's drawing a foul. He's still shooting. He's not just drawing a foul to go to the free throw line. He'll take one free throw. He doesn't want to take two. And I love that about his game, dude. He's a dog. And I think he's going to play a factor on both ends of the court in this series as a shooter, as a driver, as a playmaker, throwing those lobs to AD, spraying out to shooters. And defensively, it's going to be a big series for him. With D'Lo, you can argue just about all the same things offensively. But on defense, can he defend? Can he defend Klay Thompson? How well is he able to do? He needs to prove the doubters wrong. This is going to be, a big stage to do so. If he doesn't, we might see him lose his starting spot at some point in this series. We might see more Dennis Schroeder than D'Angelo Russell because he's a better screen navigator on ball and off ball. So D'Lo needs to step up to the plate defensively. We saw him beat the allegations in that first round offensively with that game 6. We need to see that play continue into this round, and then also defensively him to step up. So for me, it's between those two guys.
Thank the Lord up above in the sky that is blue that D'Lo beat the allegations, brother, because we were, Cranjis, it was getting dark outside. That's neither here nor there. We are positive momentum right now. Thank God D'Angelo Russell did what he did in Game 6, and now we can move into Game 1 with all the right energy. So before we get out of here, let's do it. We need the official prediction, series prediction. What's it going? Who's your winner?
And I want to say, I'm not just being homerish. If I thought the Lakers were going to lose, I'd pick them to lose. I've got the Lakers in 6. I think they enter the series with tactical edges. Last time they faced this team, they were crushing them on offense, and defensively they had their number. I think that carries over into Game 1. I think the Lakers steal one of the first 2 games in Golden State. And then from there on, we just kind of see both teams hold home court, and the Lakers win it in 6. I feel good about that. That means they're going to lose twice. And I'm not going to be calling for everybody to get traded or everybody to get fired. They're going to lose a couple games. This is a really good team they're playing. But I think enough aligns for them offensively and defensively. This is a series I think they're going to score better at the rim. And then they, from a game planning standpoint, tactically line up really well, with Anthony Davis being just the keystone piece to both of the ball screen and off ball screen defenses, that I feel good about the Lakers in 6.
I had the same thing for kind of homerish reasons, but just because I've watched these games and I watched how these Lakers have developed, and I've seen how the momentum is going. As long as 3 and 6 are healthy, and I'm not talking about they're out there on their last limb. As long as 3 and 6 are healthy, I feel good about this being a 6-game series as well. So, Tim, we did it, my brother. Here we go. If y'all are listening today, then that means the Lakers play tonight, Game 1 against the Golden State Warriors. It is it's everything that playoff basketball should be. So you cannot just diminish the gravity, no pun intended, I guess, but the era of what we're watching right now. It's not going to be a lot more Steph LeBron matchups, man. We're lucky to get this one. So what they say, cherish these moments, right? So Tim, thank you very much, man, as always, for coming through and blessing the Late Night Lake Show audience with your insights on the game, man. Real quick, everybody knows where they can find you, but where can they always keep up with your content?
Yeah, of course. So you can follow me on Twitter at Tim_NBA. I'm Cranjis McBasketball over there. So you can find me there for Lakers content, a lot of X's and O's stuff, chess match stuff, some data stuff as well. Speaking of data, I founded a website called BBall-Index. We've got a bunch of fun, cool stuff, public facing, that fans, podcasters, writers, bloggers, analysts, you can take a look at the game through a different lens. We try to incorporate the scheme and the data. We try not to have, I know we've got our LeBron metric. We got to name it after LeBron. But other than that, most of our other stats are like named real things, perimeter isolation defense, 3-point shooting talent, things that mean something, pickpocket rating, like not just a bunch of, jumbles of letters. We've got data on shot making, shot quality, defensive roles, offensive roles. Go check that out. We have the public side there. We also consult with NBA teams, WNBA teams, college teams, agents for NBA players. So lots of, fun stuff going on at the site. And then you can also follow the podcast. It's the Lakers Exceptionalism Podcast.
Bro, I just realized I've been saying basketball exceptionalism the entire time. I was like, that didn't feel right. I was like, okay, so thank you.
I didn't want to correct you like 10 seconds into the pod. Yeah. So yeah, Lakers Exceptionalism. If you're interested in this kind of content, check that out. And then, what's even better than audio for this sort of discussion is live streams and game watch parties and film breakdowns. And you can see all of that free at our Playback Lakers Watch Party stream, playback.tv/Lakers Watch Party. I tweet about it all the time. In there, we're there for every single Lakers game, breaking the game down as it happens, saying, oh, well, Golden State's, in drop coverage, the Lakers should run their double drag Oklahoma play. Here's what that would look like. Here's why it works. Here's why it doesn't work. We can't guarantee the Lakers are going to win every game and it's going to be fun that way, but we're going to make it a more enjoyable experience because you'll never leave being like, what the hell just happened? Like, we'll explain it. We'll talk about adjustments. So far, we've been pretty spot on in terms of what each team has done. This is what I think Memphis should do. And then they do it. Here's what the Lakers should be doing. And then they do it. So if you want to get that little edge and understand what's about to be happening or understand what has happened, check us out there. They just added a functionality today where I can share my screen. So I'm now able to pull up a whiteboard and in a TV timeout, be like, here's the play we saw the team run. Here's what you're trying to do with it. Here's why it worked. Here's why it didn't work. So we've got that over there for games. We do film reviews, lots of fun stuff there, all free. Playback.tv/Lakers Watch Party, Lakers Exceptionalism for the podcast, Tim_NBA for the Twitter. And all of the content, man. It's content season. I've been doing AMAs on Twitter, on Reddit, pods, streams, film breakdowns. This is my favorite time of year, and I'm just hoping that the team can keep it going.
Tim listed off everything but OnlyFans, man, and I won't ask him for that because he might have one. So, he does have the Patreon, right? Did you have
I used to.
Subscription service for BBall-Index.
Oh, so. Yeah. So actually, no, that's a good point. So we also have a Discord if you're interested in talking Lakers basketball without like Warriors fans, looming over your shoulder or people just, firing off hot takes. If you want to like really talk Lakers basketball and you're interested in the data, you're interested in the scheme, you're interested in like ball. We have a Discord. You can get into that by sending me, my podcast co-host Tom, or our Lakers Exceptionalism podcast Twitter account at Lakers XPod or Lakers XPod, whichever you prefer. Yeah. You could join the.
He
Lakers
does have an OnlyFans for this. Here we go.
It's funny you mentioned that, Ricky, because playing off of that name with the abbreviation, we're like, Lakers XPod. So we created a Discord called the Lakers X Mafia. So you can get in there, talk ball. There are different layers within it, different layers of the onion. If you want more content, you would have gotten a bonus pod today where I did a mailbag bonus pod for $5 a month. You get access to extra channels, the film room channel, and those bonus pods. If you want to pay $10 a month, and you could probably just do it for 1 month and cancel if you want. If you're interested in learning the X's and O stuff, starting from scratch, you can start from any level. We've had coaches use this, players use this, fans with no background use this. $10 a month, you get access to, currently we have about 20 hours of recorded content of me, with diagrams and film breaking down, here's how you attack switching. Here are the concepts to attack switching. Here are the concepts to attack drop coverage. Here's the different ways you can run a ball screen, the different ways you can defend a ball screen, why, when, and with who, all of that good stuff. $10 a month, you get access to extra channels as well. So go check that out. If you just check out the link in my bio on Twitter, you can see the different levels and what they get you access to. So there's just an insane amount of content. If you're interested in this sort of thing, I've got that for you. So Ricky, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for giving me the platform to pump out my stuff a little bit more. We'd be happy to come on again. This is always a blast, man.
Of course, brother. I just got news that the Celtics dropped game 1 to the 76ers, so that's a hell of a way to finish a podcast episode. I can't wait to get the details on that. I guess James Harden looking like Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Really did his thing tonight, so I'm gonna sink into that. Cranjis, Tim, my boy, thank you so much for sliding through as always, man. It's fun. So here we go. Game 1, round 2, part 5. LeBron, Steph. Hope y'all got your content ready, man. Hope your Twitter fingers are real rested. Hope everybody at the barbershop got all they takes ready to go, because it's going to be one of those weeks in the basketball community. So I hope y'all are locked and loaded. We are locked and loaded over here on the Late Night Lake Show side. We're going to get up out of here, get ready for this. Who we got tonight? It looks like it's Denver Suns game 2. God, these series are flying. So we're going to sink our teeth into that and get ready for Lakers Warriors game 1 by the time you guys are hearing this tonight. Thank you so much for listening to the Late Night Lake Show podcast. For Tim, it's Ricky. We'll see you on the timeline. Peace.